Hey guys, so we're going to do a little interesting couple videos here, actually 3 videos total. This is going to be a history of the jerry can. I think it's a really interesting history, and I actually think it should probably be taught in school. I'm just kind of kidding there. So I've got basically 4 cans that are jerry cans. Technically, I would not classify these 2 as jerry cans. These are going to be in part 2 of my video series. We're going to cover actual jerry cans today. So I'm going to set these to the side. We're going to talk about these 2. So, jerry cans come from the term jerry for German. They originated in a time around, I believe, the early 1930s. So you have Nazi Germany takes control. They start expanding their army, rebuilding it, and all of that going on. During this, they discovered their fuel cans were terrible. I got one good example right here. So this holds white gas, is for camping. This is very similar to what the gas cans they would use in the first quarter of the century, really, until about 1936. It's very thin metal. It's crimped and stamped on the edges, so it would leak. If I threw this against the wall, it would bust open. If I dropped it by accident, it would bust open. The Germans figured this out and realized that they needed a new gas can. So they put out I think a contract, a wartime contract, probably was wartime since it was the early 30s, for new gas cans. So, in truth, this one is actually more accurate to the original Germans. So this is a Midwest can company, Midwest gas cans. My dad bought this at Harbor Freight a couple years back. This is a very modern version, but the construction is very similar to how the Germans did it, except for the nozzle. This one has a nozzle accurate to the Germans' actual jerry can, but there's some key differences. So the first thing the Germans wanted was thicker walls, a stronger wall. So they bumped it up. I'm not sure what it is exactly. This is like 1/8 inch, I think. So the next thing, it could not leak. And the way they did that was they had a welded seam. And this can has a welded seam, but it's also recessed. The reason it's recessed is so that when it bumps up against a wall, the seam doesn't get hurt, doesn't bust. This can, this is a Chinese, made in China. You've seen them everywhere. They popped up recently. They're 30, 50 bucks. They're very cheap. This is just crimped, really, or lightly welded. I think it's just crimped. Yeah, this is just crimped. It's still a very accurate design to the original jerry cans. So, due to the recessed welded edge, it's very strong. You could run this over with a truck and it not collapse. You don't believe me? Go watch Wrangler Star video on the subject of the Chinese brands versus a Wavian. If you're gonna buy a can and you want an original jerry can style, Wavians are really good. I don't have any right now because I'm building up my stock. So that was one of the requirements for their new can. It had to be sturdy. It had to be thicker walls so it wouldn't crack and everything. The other thing they came up with was this nifty handle situation. So you have this handle, and I've always wondered about this. And basically this handle is set up so one person can carry 4 empty jerry cans or 2 full. Okay, how does that work? Take the 2 jerry cans, put them side by side, voila. Makes refueling awesome. So you might be wondering how different this and this are. I will try to put a picture in the video right about now. So, I don't know if I managed to do that because this is past self talking to future self here. But basically the original the original gas cans Germany used were triangular prisms. And they would leak and all that. Only one person could use them. The British used, I believe, a 6-gallon square, and it was square, and the lightest, you had to set it down like a baby, or it'd start leaking. Americans used an 8-gallon one or 10-gallon box, basically. So, and one of the reasons this is such an amazing invention is because it's very stackable. Man, I can stack it like this, we can stack it like that, then we can stack the next set right on top. You can lay it down, you can fill the void. It's very uniform. So the next part that has really greatness is this nozzle. So before, they didn't have nozzles. If you were lucky, I don't know for sure, if you were lucky, you got a spout like this, but they didn't necessarily have nozzles. So they might not even have that. They might just be a hole here you pop open and pour out your gas like that. But this, and this nozzle, and I'll say this on the Chinese ones, you can get real unlucky with the nozzles not fitting correctly. I got real lucky, mine fits almost perfectly. So, pull that off, that's really strong, boom. So it's got a gasket there to prevent all that. Extra funnel. There, gasket fell out. Another thing I'm not happy with this one on, but yeah, there we go. So, close this. That's the other thing. You can leave this open. This will not close unless it comes up like that. I believe that's original to the original jerry cans. Close that. And that pin snaps in. This is a little different, I think, just because of the pins. I don't think they have this pin here, this one I'm not sure you can see right here. But then you can, and it won't leak. So it's waterproof, and you can, well, liquid proof, but you can reuse the same can. These other metal cans, the original ones, you couldn't reuse them. They were use and toss, use and toss. Horrible logistic nightmare for our army. So, take a little break. One other thing you'll notice is it has this little pocket area. That little pocket area is another great invention and it's not really an invention, just another great purpose of this. Every part of this can has purpose. This space here is to provide extra room for expansion of the fumes and all that. If you've had a plastic gas can in the past 10 years since the EPA screwed up, you will know when you close your gas can off completely in the summer, it expands. This will help prevent it from expanding. I took it a step further just because I live in Texas and it gets really hot, expands. Even this one here did expand quite a bit. So I've got a little vent here that I'll pop open comes summertime. But that allowed for the expansion of fuel, which also helped stop the expansion from rupturing the tank. So that's another great invention. Just another, not even really invention, but it's just a great purpose. Like I said before, everything on this has a purpose. So another thing, that's the other part about these Chinese ones. They are really, really hard to get open and close. You can't see it. Right here is a vent, and it travels down the tube up into here. Another purpose of this space is to provide oxygen. This vent helps stop the glug, glug, glug of gas when you're pouring it. Greatness. This one doesn't have that, but the Wavians and a lot of new models do. They have improved ones. It's great. So now we're on to the next great thing about the jerry cans. The original jerry cans came with a plastic lining, and I really want to buy one of these original ones that have this lining because I want to see what it is. The lining, prevented rusting. So this Midwest can, high quality can, has a lining on the inside. Unfortunately, the lining has come apart, so I got to fix the lining. This China one, it does not. It's bare metal. So basically what you do, you fill it with fuel and it won't rust. But I haven't put fuel in it. I'm going to, 1 second. This is going to be for part 3 of the series. This will be going on in there. This is fuel tank sealer. What's the brand? POR 15 fuel tank sealer. This cost, I think, $16 maybe $8, maybe 16, and it does a 5-gallon can. I'm going to coat the entire inside and be done with worrying about this rusting. I have to do this one too. I'm going to do the other one, so that's going to be the 3rd video. So, but the plastic liner, the reason the plastic liner was so great is you could use the jerry can for fuel or water. The liner in this and the liner in the Wavians specifically say do not use for water. They some chemicals in it, just bad reaction. But with the plastic liner, they could wash out the gas, put water in it, and use it as water jugs. So you immediately don't have to have 2 separate cans for 2 separate purposes. You have 1 can. Like I said, I want to buy an original one just so I can see that. So these are, if you figure it out, these are really high quality, and they were drastically ahead of their time, to the point no one else knew how far ahead the Germans were in this regard. The Germans by far had solved a problem that no one knew existed, or no one knew that there was something better for it. I'll go over that in 1 second. Put this thing back on. So they start experimenting. They get the cans come in about the time of Spanish Civil War. They start using them, and the Germans realize how awesome this is for logistics. Some of the Allied forces saw it and just couldn't figure it out, didn't care. So then let's fast forward to World War II. The British in Africa, there's 2 parts to this one. There's the part where the troops figured this out, and then there's the part where the people making the decisions figured this out. The people, the troops, the people in the field were using those square fuel tanks I was telling you about earlier that were one use. They broke all the time. So after, I can't remember what battle, but they discovered jerry cans. What's so great about this fuel can? They pick up one and they pour it start using it. They realize how amazing it is compared to what they had been using. They start stealing them like mad. You might be wondering, it's war, how's it stealing? I mean, they did everything in their power to get as many of these as possible, to the point of issuing orders to find as many as possible as they could. So, troops figured this out. This is what they needed. They bumped it up to high command. However, due to the disconnect between the people on the ground and the high command was dubious on developing a new gas can in the middle of a war. It's understandable. I can't remember this guy's name. So, one of the troops and one of the people in the field went to make a report to high command. And he stated, this is the number one reason the British started making jerry cans. He stated they were losing on average 40% of their fuel. By the time it gets to them in Africa, they put it in the back of a truck and drive it to the front. And the time it's in the truck driving to the actual place where it might be a battle, they've lost 40% of their fuel due to the bad design of the fuel tanks. So the fuel cans, gas cans. So that will awaken the high command, and basically they just, boom, copy and paste it. Nothing wrong with that in war. I mean, it was an exact duplicate. I think they collected like 1 million jerry cans. And the reason I love this, the history on this so much, is because it truly solved a problem no one knew existed. Because it made it so efficient that it's impossible for my generation to really understand that, because we're 6-8 generations into this being a standard can, that will never be able to understand how amazing this is, period. So, they're still using the basic jerry can. I think Scepter or Wavian came out with a plastic can in the 90s. And it's basically a copy, really. So, they're still using it. You can go to a lot of stores and still buy these. Dad bought this 8 years ago or something. I'm not sure. It has a date on here, 03/2017, but I know that's wrong. I know that's wrong. Because we got on that deer lease 2014. I was on 2 years, so 2014, 2015. I got off for 2 years, 2016, 2017. So yeah, he had to buy this 2014 or something. I'm not sure what that date is. I tried to call Midwest up to find out what it's for, and I can't get a call. Oh, one other thing I didn't think of. You'll notice it has this little star pattern, ninja star pattern. This one's very original to jerry cans. This one's similar. Another great example of the difference in quality here is how deep this star is compared to this. That is for structural integrity. That prevents this from collapsing. So I mean, it's perfect. You can never improve upon this, no matter what the EPA tells you. Don't believe in the EPA. So, some qualities that are different, obviously, on this, between these two. Obviously, this one's made differently. This is EPA DOT compliant. Now, it was when my dad bought it. So basically what that means is this had the crappy valve that you had to press down up here at the top, up against whatever you're filling up, and all that. We all hate them. They're horrible. There's no reason to do it because they cause a horrible problem of plastic gas cans exploding and cracking. And even this has expanded drastically and contracted. You can see it is a little thin right there. But this is a very high quality can. I think they're like 80 bucks. This is not a high quality can, but it's still a good can. I'm going to use it as much as possible. After I put that fuel tank sealer in it, it will be a little better. One of the things that's a little noticeable on the handle here, this is welded at almost every possible turn you can find. This is tack welded. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tack welds on the back. Same number on the front. Another thing, this has been sitting dry in my yard, in our storage shed, not getting roughed up, not being used at all, and it's got surface rust appearing in places it really shouldn't. I mean, I understand the inside because it's bare metal, but there's places on the outside where they didn't paint it well enough. So, a little unhappy with that. This has been, I think it fell off the trailer up at the Deer Lease once and it's still in great shape. As I mentioned earlier, this comes with a liner to protect the bare metal that's inside. I think it's just paint, like this exterior paint. I think they should use epoxy if it's not. Epoxy is way better on this. It started flaking off, unfortunately, after about 8 years of use. And that's why I'm kind of wondering what this date is. I wonder if this date is the life expectancy of that liner. It's not a big deal. I'm going to make a video about fixing this up. And some people would throw it away. No, I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to spend one day leisurely, because it'll be several hours where I don't do anything to this, and fix this. And I found you can buy non-compliant EPA nozzles off of certain websites. So I'm buying that. This, I won't say don't buy it, but if you're gonna buy it, know what's the problems. Your nozzle might not fit. It really might not. This one barely fits, it barely works. The inside is bare metal, so the first time you put fuel in it, better keep it full every time after that. It's gonna rust up. That's about all I can really say on these. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. So I'm going to make another video. It's going to be part 2, and it's going to be over the American version of the jerry cans. You might say, well, Logan, that's just a jerry can. There's actually a distinct difference, and I'll show you in the next video, and I'm going to go over a bit of history on it, because its history on how it got made is almost even better than the history of these. It really is. So, if you could, like and subscribe, turn on notifications, find out when exactly I'm going to post videos, and let's keep this going.